Hello, everybody. I wanted to take a minute this afternoon and just talk to you about this. I mean, this. This with a capital T. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is that there's nothing else to talk about. Because there's only this. See? And it feels like that we have come together to talk about this. But we actually can't talk about it because we are it. Because they're just it. And there's nothing else. So this is it talking to it. This is it talking to it as if this wasn't it. And as if there was somebody to tell something, to somebody else. But there's nobody else. There's nobody. They're just you. Just you. Just this. See, there's nothing outside of this. There's nothing other than this. They're just this. When you hear people talk about this is it, see what they mean is that this is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. How far do I have to go to convince it that this is it? You see my quandary? Is that this is it coming from a place of conviction, talking to it, which is in an apparent place of skepticism about it, or you. We could say you. See, this is you. And you're you, and this is you too. Because there's only you. So this is you talking to you as if there was something other than you to talk about you. But you are actually doing the talking. When we're talking about this is you and that's you, this is wholly illusory, and so is that. I mean, within relativity, there's a body and all that, and I'll give you credit for that. And we'll want to go further than that. We'll do it on another day. But let's just notice that within relativity, there is just this. There's just this. We call it the universe, if you want. But we call it the universe, and that seems to kind of like to put a capsule on it. They talk about. I hear about the multiverse. I read about it in Marvel Comics, and I hear about it in science. So some kind of multiverse, like there's different dimensions and stuff like that. So, are the dimensions outside the universe or in the universe, or is the universe in the? It doesn't make any difference. They're just words. So, universe gives us a way to encapsulate something which can't be encapsulated, but we can mentally encapsulate it. Then we get it, right? Then we can get it. Then we can understand. But when we understand, the ultimate understanding is that there is no understanding. There's no understanding this because there's only this. And this cannot understand itself. I don't know what's going on. People are constantly asking me to explain to them something I don't know anything about. Right? I don't have the answers. What I have are the questions. See, answers just lead to, they never satisfy. Because it's always my answer to your question. And see, that whole concept is misleading. The idea that there's a me here to offer an answer to your question, just one thing. So see, when we're just asking questions, then that opens up, not that it's not necessarily a questioner expecting an answer from something else. There's just questioning. And that's much closer to the truth. Within relativity, sort of, and we could say that is pretty much the truth. It's not like the end-all, be-all of everything, but it's as good a place to go as any for now. We'll park there for now, okay, and we'll come back and we'll move from here some other time. But we'll park right here, because you notice that there's no other place to park. They're just here, and we can't get here later. Do you get that? Can't wherever it is that you feel like you are. In other words, I'm sure that most of you will be feeling like a human being right now. And you'll feel like you're somewhere. You're in your room, you're in your home, you're out in the yard, you're at the park, wherever. Well, can you get to where you already are later? I mean, if you're already in your room, can you get to your room later? How would that work? And can I give you directions to get to your room if you're already in your room? Yes, I can, but they'd all be misleading, would they not? Yeah. So it's like me asking you, so how do I get to my studio? What would be the set of directions that you would give me to get to my studio? You'd have to tell me I'm already in my studio, wouldn't you? And now what I'm telling you is a little bit different than that. I'm telling you that I am already in my studio, that you already are in your home. But that's just languaging, so that we just don't go flip out over the deep end, because the deep end of the thing is that you are your room. You're actually you're that room. You're also this room. Because there's nothing but you. There's just this. Whatever it is. See, I don't even know what it is. People always say, well, Fred, what is it? I don't know. When they say Fred, I know that they're talking about this, they're talking about this dream character within this dreaming. Yeah? And they say, Fred, so how do I understand this? Well, you don't understand it. What is there to understand? There's nothing to understand. You just notice what the truth is. And then you begin to accept the truth. See? Can you find anything outside of your awareness right now? Check. I mean, don't just take what I say for just granted, or don't reject it just out of hand because it doesn't match up with your thoughts. Check it. Can you find anything outside of your awareness right now? Hell no. And how many awarenesses do you find? But just the one awareness, isn't it? Oh. And awareness is looking for oneness, is that right? Do you notice that awareness is expecting to find oneness somehow outside of its awareness? But you can't find anything outside of your awareness, can you? Can you actually find any separation between the you and the awareness? Is it your awareness? Does awareness belong to you? Or do you belong to awareness? I mean, there's just this. I can't find anything around outside of my awareness right now. Is it possible that this is just awareness? This is, well, let's say consciousness. Because when I talk today, not every time, but today's rules are that consciousness, I am, and manifestation are all the same thing. They're synonyms. Because, we always talk about the fact, I know that I am. If I walk into a room full of 100 non-dualists and I ask them, so Tell me what's the first thing, what's the one thing you know if you don't know anything else? Everybody's going to say, I know I am. At which point they know more than I do. I don't actually know that I am. I can't report that I am. I can report that it feels like I am. I can report that there's a sense of being, but I can't find anyone that's occurring to. When I say I can't find the I. That's the difference. See, the I am, it's a way. I am is actually, it's the doorway to relativity. It's the doorway to duality. Because then I am. I can't tell you I'm not. How could I do that? And I'm going to still refer to I, but I can't find an I. The only thing I can actually find is this. And I notice that this is not other than me, but I also notice that I am not limited to this. Because what I notice is I don't even need this. This is manifestation, which is lovely. It's a great expression of mine. I say mine, it's just a great expression. It's not even, I don't claim it as being my expression. I know that it has to come from me because there's only me. See, because they're just like there's only this, there's only that. See, there's this and that, and there's no duality between them. They're just ways of speaking. But when I say this, I'm speaking of manifestation, and when I say that, I'm speaking of the same thing that Nisargadatta was speaking of when he said, I am that. The title of his most famous book, I Am That. So we think for sure that he means I am that. But he would tell you, just like I can tell you, that we can't find an I. So what the truth is that we can't speak it. The first thing you and I need to do is to tell each other the truth, which is that we can't tell each other the truth. Because the truth would be in words, and words cannot carry this. Can't happen. The words come out of this thing. Have you noticed that? And this thing is what's called a distortion. It can't tell you about reality. Because it is reality. It's part and parcel of reality. And reality can't talk about reality because this is it. We can't talk about it when we're it. It can feel like we're talking about it. It can feel like there's a Fred. It can feel like there's a you. It can feel like we're talking. There's a sense of that. There's a sense of manifestation. There's a sense of living. There's a sense that we have the ridiculous idea that one of these days we're going to die, and we're not. We're the same thing. How can it die? There's nothing other than this. It can't die. Now the world is going to pass. All these units are going to pass. These really come and go quite quickly, right? I've known many of them that have come and gone. And the older I get, the more I know that have left. But they haven't gone anywhere because they were never here. But I'm not going to go over and tell their wives that. I'm not going to say, well, don't worry about Bob. Bob was never here. I'm not going to make any sense to her unless she's a non-dualist of some depth. So what I'm going to tell her is, I'm so sorry to hear about Bob. But that's just table talk. That's just talky talk. I don't believe any of that. See, much of clearing is actually coming to use language without believing it, and coming to hear language without believing it. I don't actually reject thought. I'm not trying to get rid of thought. I don't reject it. I don't pay any attention to it. I don't pay enough attention to it to reject it. Once in a while, I will. Once in a while, I can get hung up on something. That feels true. But it doesn't last. But it still happens, so, And hell, this thing's been awake 11 years. I've been teaching for quite a while, since 2010, 2011 publicly. I mean, on the internet. But since 2010 publicly. That's quite a long time. I mean, it's not, there actually is no time, so there's nothing to it. But it feels like there's something to it. Because it feels like there's a me here, feels like that there's a Fred here, and if I wanted to really just jump over the edge with the lemmings, I could say that it feels like that Fred woke up 11 years ago. But there's no Fred, so it's clearly... That's what I used to tell myself, is, oh yeah, I woke up. How could I wake up? I was never asleep. Because I'm only this. There is only this. You're only this. Can you look at me right now and tell me that you're not here? Can you tell me you're not aware that you're here? Oh, but you're waiting for the exotic awareness. You're waiting for the other awareness. You're waiting for the awareness that you can't find in your own mundane, regular, everyday awareness. Because you're waiting for the other awareness. Is that right? See, oneness is also waiting for the other oneness, because it knows this can't be it. I mean, this is all I can see. It's all I've ever been able to see. But this can't be it. See, that's what the mind says, isn't it? This can't be it. Because if this is it, then for the mind, this is going to be very disappointing. I woke up a guy 2 weeks ago, and he told me at the end, he said, this is kind of disappointing for the unit. And that's because he was only that much awake. Right? And I remember when I was that much awake, too. Felt like I had really hit the big time. And I can't say that I hadn't. But I can tell you that awake is awake. There's not levels of awakeness, but there's levels of clarity. So he was wide awake, but just not very clear. I should be clear about this. The language is just so confusing. There's no right language for this, because language can't tell it, because you're that which is prior to language. See, there's this and there's that, and you're that, this is part of that. But except for the fact that it can't be part of what there's only one when there's only one thing. So this and that are not two. How's that? That's just like what advaita means, isn't it? Not two. So this and that are not two. So manifestation and the unmanifested, somehow they're not two. That's what they're trying to tell us. And you know what? I believe them. How long can you live in the truth looking for the truth? Well, you can live for lifetimes living in the truth looking for truth. That much I can tell you. Today I just published, or yesterday, late last night, I published a little post called the 50, something like the 50 reasons or excuses or whatever. I forgot, 50 lame excuses as to why you're not awake right now. I know I have to go back and retitle that. But you can go and look for 50 reasons or 50 excuses and search it on Awakening Clarity. And I don't care if this is 5 years from now, you'll still be able to find it, providing I'm still alive and Awakening Clarity is still running. And when I say I'm still alive, that's Fredness talking, isn't it? Because I can't not be alive. I'm aliveness itself, but just aliveness itself doesn't have to be showing up as Fredness. Because there's only oneness, and it shows up the way it shows up, but there's actually only noneness. That's the deep end of the pool. But oneness is not other than noneness. but somehow, without there being any, but oneness does not equal noneness. And when I say oneness, what do I mean? I'm all over the place. There's no way I can explain that. You can feel that in your gut or not. That is something that hits home or it doesn't. And if you hang around, it will hit home. I had a workman here this morning. We were talking, and he said, and he's just suffering mightily, and I can see it, and he was bitching and moaning about it. I said, shut up, man. You're doing what you always do, which is bitching and moaning about your life. Quit it. You're not doing any good. You're not doing me any good. Change what you're doing or surrender to it. Or leave it. Do whatever. But don't just sit there bitching and moaning. Because what I'm telling you is that it was bitching and moaning about it. See, because there's nothing but it. There's just this. So this was bitching to this about this. Well, what is the point in that? But see, that was only because this didn't recognize this. And this didn't see that it was also this. Because they're just this. So it can't be outside of this, and it can't be other than this, because they're just this. But then, of course, there is that. I'm so sorry, but it can be so much fun. Just to twist words, hoping that I can turn the lens to where you can focus in. Because, see, there's only this, which means that this is this. And I just want to tell you that through this experienced unit, through this experience of a unit, the seeing is very, very clear. And let's say I go all the way to imagine with you that there's a unit over there. Well, through that unit, it's also me, or you, either one, because me and you are actually the same thing, because they're just one thing, or there's no thing. But through that unit, let us say, for the sake of conversation, let us say that through that unit, I'm not seeing very clearly at all. Or actually some of those units out there I'm seeing very clearly, and we're just coming here together here to have a laugh. That's right. Yeah, lots of units are watching this right now that are awakened. I can guarantee you, because I know that a lot of my crowd will be watching this, and there's a lot of my crowd that is awake. There's a good many, right? And that are wide awake. And what I say, and they're all awake, because they're all awakeness. See, they're just awakeness. When I say there's this cannot tell you that it's not awake. And this that's awake cannot tell you that this awakeness cannot tell you that it's not this. How could it? So there's no separation between this and this, or any actual separation between this and that. There is an experience of separation. See, this is what confuses you so much. Is the idea that experience equals truth. It really doesn't. It's a great pointer. And it's a deeper, much more profound pointer. Or pointing, not pointer, but pointing. That's the great thing, as we get back into the verb. See, it's beyond, when we get into experience, and what I'm talking about is that we move beyond the confines of language. I have people do all kinds of little exercises, and we do mental exercises and philosophical questions and all this kind of stuff. But it's really just so that we can move beyond the language that's asking questions and trying to answer them and stuff, and we do little physical things, and then and it's really just what I help you to do is to observe what's actually here, observe what's actually happening, and I have you take note of yourself, right? Which is what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to help you to take note of yourself, and there's actually no way to avoid yourself. Through this unit, I see that very clearly. Through that unit, maybe not so clearly. Trying to twist the lens so that it, because there's only it, there's nothing but this, can see as clearly through that this as this. No difference. Just making a joke. Between the unit or the experience over there of a unit that thinks that it's in a dream, not realizing that it is the dream. But through this dreaming, there's just clarity that there's only this. And there's no question about it. How could I not be this? There's only this. Over there, you're thinking that there's something other than this. And there's not. And as long as you're thinking that there's something other than this, you think that you ain't this, that you're at this outside of you, that you're not part of this. Somehow. But you can't not be this, because it's just this. Only this. Welcome to this. So when we talk about you going back to the home that you never left, we're talking about this. And we're talking about with you going home, we're also talking about this. So we're really always talking about this, noticing, coming to finally notice that there's only this. There's no way that a Fred can recognize that there's only this, because there's no Fred, not if there's only this. And there's no way that a Bob or a Susan is ever going to come to realize that there's only this either. See, that's the mind at play. The mind thinks that it's going to figure this thing out, right? This way, these brains, they weigh about 8 pounds. You can put them in the palm of your hand. See that? Jack loves to gnaw on this thing, by the way, and I think it's coming from China. I'm afraid it might be poison. I know that the one in my head is poison, right? And maybe you're going to notice that the one in your head is poison. Not that you have a head. Not that you have a brain. But you, awakeness, are experiencing a brain. You're experiencing you're billions and billions of them. I was just thinking about the humans. 7.5 human brains that you're experiencing just on this planet. Billions and billions more brains. And those brains allow you to believe that you're having an individual experience. But the brains are just this too. The brains are not separate. The brains that are allowing this to recognize that there's only this are also this. God, I hope nobody confuses this with semantics, because I promise you it is not. Ultimately, there is only experiencing. You are that experiencing that's experiencing. The mind is not going to be able to grab hold of that. That's a good thing. Stay in the confusion. See, what I've noticed is that I live in the great okayness. I'm not saying that I jump up and down about every moment, but I notice it's okay. It really is. It's okay. It's fine. I'm just like Krishnamurti. I don't mind what happens. Just don't mind. It's okay. See, this okayness is actually beyond bliss, because bliss is zzz, and there's an opposite to bliss as we think of it. But you can notice that this okayness is actually a very calm, low-key, quite enjoyable, but not necessarily riveting experience. See, some experiences are riveting and some experiences are not. You have to be willing to give up on riveting. Because, see, a riveting experience is always something that a character reports on. You're not a character. You're this. Characters are just imaginary. You can't say they're outside of this, but you can't say they're inside of this because they're just imaginary. So we're talking about Fredness. Fredness is here, these patterns, just like the Hurricane Irma, right? It's that there are all these patterns. That's Fredness. But right in the dead center of Irma, there is an absence of patterns, and it just like there was in the Hurricane Harvey, and will be in every hurricane to come. In the very dead center, what you find is not the special Harvey, the most powerful Harvey, the most unbelievable Harvey or Irma, or whatever it is. Now we got another one, a couple out there in the ocean. The eye wall. See, now I'm talking about the eye wall. Get some water before I choke to death here. The eye wall, when I'm speaking of hurricanes, is of course that thing that is the most turbulent weather of the entire hurricane is occurring in the eye wall. And the most turbulent weather, the most turbulent patterns, are also occurring between the eye wall, the eye individual singularity, or individual wall. And when you break through that wall, what you find is an absence of patterns. Right in the dead center of Hurricane Irma, there's beautiful weather. Right dead center. But right next to it, there's just, woo! That's the same thing we hear. The Fred that's trying to get peace, that wants to live in peace, is that eye wall. Now we're talking again, I with the letter I dash wall, and not the E-Y-E wall of a hurricane, but that letter I dash wall. The most turbulent weather is right next to the eye wall. But in the center of all that weather, there's beautiful weather here. If you're trying to live in peace or find peace, it's not going to work. If somebody tells you, "Yes, I finally found peace," it's just a way of speaking. If we're talking about non-dual awakening, it's just an expression. You can only live as peace. You can only live as the eye of the hurricane, which is the absence of patterns. The absence of patterns is not, that's patterns. The empty awake space that all of that occurs within, so to speak, that's peace. That's you. You're not going to find peace. You are peace. You're not going to find love. Quit hunting for it. You're it. I'm looking for love and beauty and peace. You are love and beauty and peace. That's what you are. But you have to be willing to live as love and beauty and peace. And I find precious few who are. That's the truth. And many, many, many who think they do till they're introduced to it. And then it's like, oh, my story is so compelling. Because they're going to try to do it on their own. Good luck with that. I'm not telling you that you can't. I can just tell you that I couldn't. I couldn't do it. I could not clear up on my own. I did, so to speak, wake up on mine twice. well, actually more than that, but one a little bit in 1992, big time in 2006, lots of little times since then. One that wasn't, so, and some that aren't really all that little. But clear up? No, I need my whole crew for that, I think. I'm not going to find out by getting rid of them, because they keep me in sessions 3-4 times a week, which is great. See, they're keeping me awake. They think I'm keeping them awake, and I am, except that there's no I here. So this is keeping this awake, as if this could not be awake. See, you cannot not be awakeness, but awakeness can believe it's not awakeness, at which point it will experience separation. It's experienced, but it's not true. There can't be any separation when there's just this. But you know what? I feel like I've just about worn this out today. It's not really true. I'm going to cut it off because I think 35, 36 minutes is about enough. That's about all you can stand, I think. But I swear to God, I could sit here hour after hour and just do this. Because I can't not do this, because I am do this. I am this. And I am this video too. But it's time now to do other things. Thank you for joining me. I love you. Take this seriously. See you soon.